You're listening to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast. This is the podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs who understand that exponential business growth isn't achieved through traditional business tactics alone, but through personal development, the ultimate leverage point to scale businesses beyond conventional limits. Hosted by Erica Ferenzi, featuring lessons from the Practical, Profitable Mindset program, created by R. John Robbins, Alejandra Leibovich, Erica, and Oscar Ferenzi. And here's your host, Erica Ferenzi.
So welcome to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we will talk about people's needs, your need, my need, everyone's need to be right. This need is deeply rooted in all of us. So at this moment, you might be asking, but what is this need to be right? Well, it is that incessant need that people have to demonstrate that they do know what they are doing, to explain why they are doing things, to show others that they indeed tried, to justify their actions and their behaviors in order to feel safe enough or good enough. It may seem harmless on the surface. As we will discuss, this need is actually a powerful subconscious block. One that, if you do not become aware of, it can quietly sabotage our success, your success in business, relationships, and personal growth. So let me give you some examples on how this need to be right expresses in conversations. For example, people who are listening to respond and not to understand. When you're in this mode, you're not listening to what other people are saying. You're just waiting your turn so you can say something to defend yourself or win. It will sound like, yeah, but let me show you or explain to you. Well, that's not really what happened. Interrupting others mid-sentence. What is really happening is your identity, the identity of the person that is doing this, feels so tied to being correct or being right that understanding becomes secondary. And again, this is not relationship building. This is eroding safety in relationships. Let me give you one more example. People start constantly correcting or fact-checking, even when it doesn't matter. They will point out small inaccuracies. It will sound like, well, it was not actually 2019, it was 2018. It really doesn't matter most of the times. Well, technically, that is not what happened. Let me tell you what happened. So they have this incessant need to clarify things that are not really important. What they are truly doing is that they are prioritizing being right over the connection of the conversation. The conversation between these two parties or one person and a team becomes a scoreboard of who is right and who is wrong. The deeper truth is that the need to be right is rarely about truth. It is about control, it is about identity, and it is about saving. At some level, there is a belief in that person who has this need to be right, which, by the way, I just said it, we all have it at a certain level, but there's some people that have it more than others. But at some level, these people have the belief, if I am wrong, I will not be respected. If I am wrong, I will not be seen as successful. If I am wrong, I am not going to be seen as smart. And this is where all this originates. The mind defense. So let's break down the three biggest teachings from today's lesson. First, the need to be right is not about truth. It's about protection. What feels like logic or certainty is often just a person's ego trying to shield them from discomfort. When a person feels challenged, our mind immediately works to defend our position, not to understand what the other person is trying to say or what the other person's needs might be. But in doing so, we stop learning, we stop connecting, and we stop growing. Second, our reactions are rooted in childhood conditioning. Most of these emotional responses were formed before the age of 7. They stem from the core areas of lacking love, not feeling secure, and searching for self-esteem. When one of these feels threatened, even slightly, our defensive patterns activate automatically, often without us realizing it. And then third, awareness is always the gateway to change. The lesson introduces a powerful exercise. For 1 week, let everyone be right. I know. No arguing, no explaining, no but, nothing. Instead, replace it with yes and follow up with thoughtful questions. This very simple switch helps you observe your emotional triggers instead of reacting to them. Because the goal is not to suppress your voice. It is to understand what is driving it. And when you do that, everything changes. So now you will hear from Alejandra Leibovich, one of the 4 co-creators of the Practical Profitable Mindset program, in a more deeper lesson on the need to be right. Enjoy and listen, pay attention, take lots of notes.
This week, we are going to be talking about the need to be right. You could have the need to be right. I will explain what it is for the ones that don't know. For the ones that think that do know, please listen anyways. Don't let your need to be right that you know, prevent you from learning something new and a little bit of a different take on this that you haven't heard. I personally take the same classes and read the same books pretty much every year. Why? Because I change. So every time I change, I learn something new. I'm not the same person as I was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And it is really interesting in the note-taking, the different things that I learned from the exact same book that I did not see before. So if you think you know about it, anyways, listen to it. You might be surprised that you are going to realize something, like have a realization from something somebody's going to say, from something I'm going to say, from your new level of awareness. Okay? There is the need to be right, and there is also something that is not really taught that Marja and I believe in, which is the need to not be wrong. And they are a little bit different. They have the same freaking purpose, which is to not basically let you grow. You might not have the need to be right, but you might have the need to not be wrong, which is sometimes you say nothing about something that someone says, even if it triggers you, that you think that you have no opinion at all, but that is also your need to be right, that you don't agree. And it usually tends to be a little bit more passive aggressive than just period wanting to be right and not letting the other person be right. So let's see if I can get this. I have here my notes and I can get these concepts in less than half an hour. So the infamous need to be right or need to not be wrong is basically an ego block, a subconscious block that keeps us, people, all of us, like we all have in some level, some need to be right about something. It keeps us from achieving goals, can keep us broke. It can keep us from making sales, from helping more people, from managing our employees well so they can replace us. It can keep us in bad relationships, in toxic relationships, can keep us from being great parents. That is kind of the effects of the need to be right. There is, if you suffer from it, it is interesting because if you have it, many times you're not even able to hear a lesson, right? And you've seen that happening in many of the calls where the need to be right and their point of view, somebody else's point of view, doesn't let them hear the other person and what they have to say or to learn a lesson. In this week, if you do the exercise, which I highly recommend that you do, you will experience, and it could also happen during the calls, that I say something or somebody else says something that you think we are completely wrong, and you experience an emotional reaction, you experience a physical reaction. Those reactions are going to make you make that person who's talking wrong and make you right. Your mind will find all kinds of reasons where you are right and the other person is wrong. You will try to find all kinds of rationalizations about why the other person is wrong. You will want to try to prove that they are wrong. Then you will have an emotional reaction, and then you will feel like leaving that conversation. You will be closed off, and then you will create some sort of reason to completely get out of that situation and then avoid it. That pattern of what happens when you hear somebody that you really think that is wrong and that you gotta tell them, that you gotta say, no, it's this way. That pattern that I describe and what happens after are very profound, and they keep us stuck for years. But if you step back, when you're having that reaction, when you find yourself that you are rationalizing something, that you are being defensive, if the moment that something strikes you and you start being defensive at something, then the whole pattern basically happens and it keeps you stuck. So the idea is to take a minute and ask yourself, what is it that I'm hearing that I don't get here, that I don't understand? When you're having this negative reaction, you have to understand that it's not the outside source what's causing the negative reaction. It's something internal in you. Could be a memory, could be a feeling, could be something that happened many, many years ago. The issue is that when we're having a deep emotional reaction to something, when we're getting defensive, we start putting reasons of why they are wrong, why we shouldn't do something, then that emotion will change the way that you think about something. And then you will make decisions based on your feelings and not based on reality and based on the truth. So we have to step back a little bit when that happens and ask ourselves, what is it that we're not understanding that is being said that is triggering us? If we do that, if we can make a different decision from a place of truth, instead of a place of emotion, the results that we will get will be very, very different. Think how that will play in a sales calls with a prospect. When the prospect rejects you, tells you that somebody else is cheaper, tells you that the other firm is better than yours, and we are getting defensive and we are having an emotional reaction that then changes the way that we are thinking. That happens to us all the time, some more than others. The idea of this week is to become aware of those moments and start practicing so that we don't have those emotional reactions. Those reactions, they need to be right, comes from a deeply wounded place inside of ourselves. Inside each of us, there are tons of memories and experiences, good and bad, in how we perceive them. And most of them, actually, that we are being governed by happen when we were little, before the age of 7. We have to understand that this is until you start your path of personal development to change that. Most people live their life, and the way that they are going to live and the way they think was set up prior to the age of 7, that young. With those immature experiences, we lay the foundation for how we experience the world after the age of 7, when we are grown-ups. Tons of people that you're living with, meeting, other parents, prospects, friends, they are actually being governed by those immature experiences prior to their age of 7. Do you remember the first time that you realized that people think different than you? Most of our lives, we really didn't understand how many people thought, how they think, and we don't really get that they don't think like us. And we mostly assume that they think and feel about everything the exact same way that we do. And different people have very different reactions to things. Some people are great at sales and some are pretty mediocre. Another person can sit and stare at the phone for a whole day without calling a prospect because they can't get themselves to do it. They're frozen. You find yourself frozen in different situations. The emotional response is very different for different people. Where these come from? It comes from a wound, from a deep wound around 3 areas, mainly one of 3 areas, and that is security, love, or self-esteem. This is where the need to be right or the need to not be wrong come from. It's basically a shield trying to keep us from experiencing the pain of losing one of these 3 areas, losing security, losing love, or losing self-esteem. When we are kids, before the age of 7, really until the 20s, we are supposed to get from our parents love, security, and self-esteem. And at some point, this is supposed to be turned over to us. At some point, we are supposed to realize that we have the ability to love ourselves. And that's what we need to do first. Before we can love anybody, we have to love ourselves. On self-esteem, we're supposed to get to a point where we see ourselves and our self-worth. We are supposed to get to a point where we see ourselves being worthy of loving ourselves, of creating a successful life, of having amazing relationships, of having a magnificent business, and creating a business that will give us security. We need to get to the point where we see ourselves as worthy of having an amazing business that gives us that security and that provides services that help other people. In your cases, that legal services that help other people. And we all know that there are things that people need and there are things that people want, and those are not the same. And that has a lot to do with the need to be right. And the last thing before I go into that is we hopefully got security from our parents. Most of our security usually comes from financial security. If as kids we didn't have one of these 3, love, security, or self-esteem, that can be very terrifying for a kid. We then grow up with those fears inside. For security, I can tell you, for example, in my family, when my dad had a mental breakdown and left and was put into a mental hospital, that really affected my security and my love and my self-esteem. It affected everything dramatically. And I was just a little girl. I wasn't even 2. So that is something that I saw that happen when my dad made a mistake and he was defrauded by his partner and he was ashamed of it. He didn't want to tell anybody. He hid it from everybody. And then he ended up how he ended up. So I saw somebody be wrong, my dad being wrong and my mom being wrong, and basically lost everything. Lost our house. We had to move to a different city. I had to live in another house with other people that I didn't know. Those are the kinds of things that can happen to us that will affect dramatically our security. Okay? And we then grow up living and having our decision-making dictated and our actions still coming from that terrified, deeply wounded kid. And they affect us in many ways. They show up in many ways. They show up in people hoarding money, hoarding things, having the unwillingness to change anything because the process of changing anything makes them feel too insecure. That's from where insecurity comes from, right? Sometimes it shows in keeping toxic relationships, or sometimes staying in areas of practice for you guys that you don't love, or choosing a job that you don't love, but still hold it. It shows up mainly, and it affects us greatly as business owners and entrepreneurs in our sales calls and in our relationships with our employees and our clients. When you are in business for yourself, like most of you in this call are, and myself, we have to deal with risk. Risk is everywhere. In every single freaking decision that we have to make as a business owner, we have risk. There is risk of many different things. You need to make money, right? You want to have the things you want. You want to give yourself the life that you want to give. You want to give your family a fantastic life. You want to have freedom to live how you want it. And you want to help people. You want to provide those legal services. But then to actually give that help to those people, you have to do marketing and you have to do sales. And not all marketing and not all sales have the same results. There is risk in what we need to do for those. And every time that we have a sales conversation, we experience greatly that risk. And that is the risk that creates the most amount of pain and insecurity for the person doing the sales call. And if you have any of these underlying needs or terrors from when you were a kid, then your ego will prevent you, will even stop you from doing anything that will take you in the direction to experience that risks. This happens when you resist doing the sales calls, when you don't want to become the phone, when you don't want to do those things that are uncomfortable. Every time that you feel uncomfortable, this is what is happening. So our ego, our subconscious knows very well that with risk brings those insecurities, those pains, and those terrors really back to the surface. And the thing that we put in between us and those fears is the shield of the need to be right. So the need to be right makes us not experience that pain. It keeps us as a shield from even being close to experiencing the pain of loss of one of those three things, either love, self-esteem, or lack of security from when we were those little kids. Our ego then doesn't allow us to even have the kind of conversations where we could really make a difference and help someone, because they put us right in front of us that risk. In a sales call, when somebody rejects you, when they tell you that somebody else is cheaper, when they tell you no, when all of those things that make you have a negative emotion and make you feel defensive, then your ego, your need to be right, it stops you from actually doing it. Every time that you find yourself feeling defensive about something that someone is saying, or rejecting what someone is saying, having an emotional or a physical reaction to something that someone is saying, that's the need to be right, showing up as the shield to protect you to not feel that pain. Every time that you find yourself rationalizing why you shouldn't do something, finding reasons why someone is wrong, that is the need to be right. If you had the experience of many rejections as a little kid, and then you have the opportunity to go to a networking event where you could get a lot of referral sources, your ego puts all kinds of reasons and excuses to not go to that networking event where it could make a difference for your business. Why? Because it wants to stop you from the pain of being rejected yet again, right? So every time that you find yourself rationalizing, giving yourself reasons and making fully sense of something, and then once you decide to not go to the event, to the networking event, you feel relief. If you feel the relief, that what happened there is the need to be right, and it happened related to the loss of love or security or self-esteem. That is the dynamic that happens. And know that you're having an emotional reaction that affects your thinking, and then you make decisions based on those emotions from when you were the age of 3. So the idea of this week is to do some exercises to practice becoming aware of when the need to be right is showing up. In 1 week, we're not going to get rid of the need to be right. It's most likely it's not going to happen. You need at least 2 months of every single day practicing this. But what we can do is to become aware of when the need to be right is showing up. The idea is to be aware of how you feel at that moment so that you can see the pattern and figure out where it's coming from. Your job is to be aware of when it happens and then try to figure out if it comes from loss of love, love of security, or loss of self-esteem. It will be great if you do start journaling what happens to you when you are having these feelings, because it will help you figure out where it's coming from. If it's from security, from love, or self-esteem. This week, you are going to let everybody in your life be right. They are going to say something, you are going to have a reaction that they are wrong, but you're not going to correct them and you're not going to disagree with them. You are going to just be compassionate, you're going to calm down and you're going to let them be right. They are going to say things and you're going to feel these things. Just take note of how you feel. Write it down. Try to figure out where it's coming from. Lack of love, security, self-esteem. The idea is to discover just that, where they are coming from. The goal here is that if you want to make a specific point, and for example, if you are working with an employee or if you are having a sales call and you want to help that person have a realization, make a decision, which is the whole goal of a sales call or leading somebody that works for you, you're going to let them be right. You're going to say yes, and the word but needs to come out of your vocabulary this week. You're going to say yes, and then you're going to ask them questions that will lead to for them to come to a conclusion of their own. On any point that you are trying to say, you're going to just ask them questions, and those questions are going to help them think things through so they come to the conclusion on their own. The same way that you will be doing with a prospect. Just let them be right. And it's very important that you got to take note of how you feel and what are the emotions that you feel when you let that person be right. If you feel stupid, that comes from low self-esteem, from the loss of self-esteem. Like you gotta figure out in the emotion, try to figure out where is it coming from, loss of security, love, or self-esteem. And it's very important that the word but, B-U-T, has to come out. Is yes and. Okay? Because anytime that you say, oh, I agree, but it means you don't agree. Okay? So it needs to be yes and then you need to start asking questions. So, questions.
This afternoon, I have a meeting with a referral source who reached out. He's a financial advisor. He reached out 2 weeks ago saying that he met another attorney who does estate planning, and they've been referring back and forth to each other a lot. Mm-hmm. And I had known him before, and he did fall off my radar. And he said that he'd like a meeting today to go over what this attorney is doing right and why he's giving all his business to this other attorney. I honestly wanted to cancel the meeting, and then I left it on. So I said, I'll chat with them. And this morning, I felt like canceling it. But I said, I'm leaving it. And then I'm starting to get defensive. Every time I look at his name on my list, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to tell you why I don't send you. And I don't want to do that. But I think this is actually a good opportunity for me to be open-minded, hear him out. But I feel defensive. I really do. And then he gave me the name of the attorney. And of course, I know that person. And I'm like, oh, really? And I'm comparing and I'm saying, you're sending him work and he's whatever. It's like they're having a party without me. So what I'm picturing is that I'm going to sit there, hear him, whatever he has to say. And you're saying yes. And just hear him out what his proposal is to forward.
So 2 things, and this you might want to write it down because you are having an emotional reaction. So you're not thinking straight. Like this is like happening on camera. So this is perfect. Like it's perfect timing. So one is you say you're feeling defensive. What exactly are you feeling? Are you feeling
not good enough? Feeling really you feel that this person is giving him a lot of business. So that's why I'm giving him business. And that's why I'm not giving you business. So I did feel defensive of that. And I started to go to my mind. It's like, well, I referred you this, that, and the other thing. That's not true. And I'm looking at who I referred to. And then I said, oh, and then I remember I referred you this guy and he didn't like you, but I didn't say that to him at the time. I said, oh, it sounds like it wasn't a fit. So I'm feeling defensive that, oh, okay, that's not really true, that I'm not referred.
From loss of self-esteem. from something like loss of self-esteem and also loss of love. And they all go together. So the loss of self-esteem has to also do with loss of love because they are having a party without you. And also from loss of security because it's one less person that is sending you business. Okay. So they are all like interrelating, but it is good that you know, and I want you to write it down like this, that how you feel.
Okay.
Now, to basically, you're going to have a sales calls with this person. Okay. That see it as such. So what's going to happen is like, you're going to say yes. And this is something that the mind just cannot avoid. Okay. What you're going to start asking is asking questions. If you say a statement, the person can reject it or they can embrace it, right? And most likely this person is just going to reject it. But when you ask a question, when somebody asks you a question, your mind, your ego, like you cannot stop from answering it. Even if you don't say it, you have to think about it. And it kind of takes you off your game. Whatever train of thought you were on, now you have to answer that question. So you're going to start asking questions. And then what you need to find out is from what he's saying, what you're going to find out is what are this person's needs? What is he lacking of? Is he lacking love, security, or self-esteem? Okay. Because it could be simple as this. The other guy takes him to get ice cream on Friday nights. Okay. And he loves ice cream. Ice cream is his favorite. Like it can be so stupid as such. Okay. And here you're doing this whole thing. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm this and like the loss of, and it could be, it has nothing to do with you. Everything has to do with him in what the other person is giving the referral source so that the referral source sends the business. So your job in this call, it doesn't fucking matter what he says. What you need to find out is ask questions so that you find out what are his needs, what he's lacking, so you can give them that.
I get it. So focus on him.
Completely on him. Completely on him. It doesn't matter what he tells you. You need to ask the questions and you need to find out. Like you are going to ask, oh, so what do you see in that other firm that is fantastic? What do you see that my firm is lacking? What you should use, for example, are questions like, what will make you feel comfortable in sending business? Things like that, and have him talk the most that you can. So he will tell you what are his needs, what he's lacking that the other guy is giving him.
That's what I'll do. All right.
It could even be that the paralegal takes his wife shopping, that the other guy's kid plays with their son. Like it has nothing to do with you.
Okay.
Your job is to agree whatever he says. You cannot disagree. You just agree and ask him questions.
Okay.
And the whole purpose is to find out what the other guy, what he's getting that he's not getting from you.
All right.
This is a sales call. What you need to do is to turn it around. Okay. And you can totally do it because you are going to figure out what the other person is giving this guy that you're not. And then you can give it to him and then he will sell you business. Imagine you're in the Thunderdome. This is why the Thunderdome is so fucking good, right? Yeah. Because you're selling this thing, which your job is to find out, like selling the rubber duck. Your job is to find out what he's getting, what the referral source is getting that it's not getting from you. And then have the conversation that you can give him that. Or it could be that you don't want to give him that. And then that's it. And then you don't have to spend all this time and energy and thinking, about, all of this stupid shit instead of putting energy in growing your business, right? Got it?
Got it. I have 3 hours. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And just follow your gut. Like you have to be focused on him. You already know how you feel.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
You feel that you're not good enough. And you know that is not true. Okay. What is true is that this particular guy is getting something that he needs from somebody else.
Okay.
That perhaps you can give him something even better or choose not to.
All right, Ali. Thank you.
So always focus on him and what is the best for him.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome back. As we wrap this lesson, one thing becomes absolutely clear. The need to be right does not serve anyone. It limits us. Let's quickly revisit the key takeaways. First, being right often comes at a cost. It blocks connection, it shuts down conversations, and prevents us from truly helping other people. When we prioritize being right, we stop being effective. Second, our emotional reactions are signals, not truths. Every moment of defensiveness, frustration, or withdrawal is pointing to something deeper, usually tied to our need for love, for feeling safe and secure, and our desire to feel that we matter, our self-esteem. And third, transforming starts with practice. The let everyone be right exercise is not about agreeing with everything. Please note, this episode was recorded over 5 years ago. I know that recently there's a very famous theory about it, but this episode was recorded 5 years ago and it's still so timely. Let everyone be right. You don't have to agree with everything they say, but you will create space to listen, space to connect with them, space to understand what they mean, and that will create space to lead others to their own conclusions through curiosity instead of correction. Over time, this shift doesn't just change conversations, it absolutely changes outcomes because it builds relationships. You will become more aware, definitely more effective, and ultimately way more powerful in how you show up and every single interaction. And that is exactly what we do here for you on the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast. And now it's your turn to take action. Here is to your exponential growth. Stay healthy, stay hungry, and stay focused, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast. We encourage you to take action on it today. Share what you've learned with another entrepreneur. Sign up for our newsletter to get bonus content you won't get anywhere else at exponentialentrepreneur.com and subscribe to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast to receive the next episode. Until next time, keep breaking through limiting beliefs and growing exponentially.